So one little story I'd like to tell you is that when I first came into Sahaja, so I've told you the story where I met Shri Mataji about 1978. We got our realisation, that is my wife and I. So the second story is, I've been meditating around 12 months, possibly 2 years, so we're talking 78, 79, we're talking about in the 80s, 80, 81. And I've been going to the Birmingham meeting. I've had asthma since I was 4. And I just thought, now at this stage, I don't really know who Shri Mataji is. I'm thinking she's a guru or something like that. So I had it in my head, which is typical of me, to get infatuated with an idea. So I had it in my head that I'd go to London and I'd speak to Shri Mataji and see if she could help me with the asthma. So I hitchhiked it down there because we're quite poor. I found out where the house was, and I don't know how I did all these things. If you ask me how I did them, can't tell you, but it was Chelsham Road. So I turned up at Chelsham Road and I knocked on the door, and they said, "Who are you?" I said, "Oh, don't you know me? I'm from Birmingham, I'm a Sahaja." And of course they didn't have a clue because they were all from London. So they foolishly let me in. So I'm sat in the room, and the Shri Mataji sat there, and most of us are sat around the wall, around the periphery. There's probably about 15, 20 there. And this is in the days when Bala, who moved to America, Rolls-Royce engineer, used to run the Coventry meeting. So I did see him, but even he didn't question me. So we were in the house, Mother's talking, and there was a lapse. So I thought, this is it. So I walked up to the front, and on my knees actually, and kind of shuffled forward from a meditation position. And I said to Shri Mataji, "I've had asthma all my life, could you help me?" And she said, "Okay." And one thing that you have to know about Shri Mataji is, even when she's working on you with undivided attention, she somehow has undivided attention on everybody else. And I noticed that straight away. So I sat down on my knees, and she made me hold her feet onto my centre heart. And she was just talking to people, and I was sat there holding her feet. And suddenly, it was like a stick breaking. There was this sound, and she looked at me and says, "That's it, that's fine." And then she said, "Give this guy a picture of my feet to meditate on." And that was it. And I remember feeling, oh my God, that feels easy, you know, and I could breathe better. But to be honest, I didn't have the confidence, or Shri Mataji calls it Shraddha, doesn't she? The total faith in her that had actually cured me. And I did feel well for a couple of hours. Then I went back into my old ways of having asthma, but it was still quite a strong experience.
Didn't you say also that Shri Mataji asked you what?
Yeah, that was a really weird thing.
Time?
Yeah, I'll tell you that just briefly. That a really weird thing happened that I'd never said this before to anybody, and I didn't even know it was in my mind. Shri Mataji said, "Oh, this is a fault with your parents that you have this asthma." She said, "What's up with your parents?" And I said, "Well, my dad's a Catholic and my mum's a Protestant." And she said, "That's it." And I thought, why did I say that? I've never even thought that in my life before. And that's kind of funny that them things come out of the depths of somewhere that you're not familiar with. So, interesting experience.
And so I think you had another couple of stories, didn't you? There was a story about the watch. Was that a different one?
Right, I'm going to go straight on.
Okay, yeah, I think so.
Okay. So, when we met Shri Mataji in 1978 at Dr. Johnson House, I just mentioned his name, Bala, B-A-L-A. He used to run the he used to run the Birmingham meeting and had a house in Tamworth. So we were invited, everybody that was in the room at that time of that self-realisation, which could only be about 30 people, were invited to Bala's house the next day. So
was that with Shri Mataji?
Yeah, Shri Mataji was at the house.
Yeah.
And I think that she had the first Sri Krishna puja at that house the next day, but we weren't allowed to stay to that. Anyway, so we turned up at this house, and again, I don't know how I got there, and I don't know how I got the address, and I don't know how all that happened, but he must have given us the address. So we turned up at the house, and again, there's only maybe 10 people in Bala's house. So there's Bala, and, you know, people from that meeting, from that self-realisation meeting. And we sat around the wall. And funny enough, Bella said to me, can you tell where Shri Mataji had sat last night? And I did. I put my hands out and I could actually feel a very strong cool breeze coming from that seat. And strangely enough, I used to feel the cool breeze much stronger in those days for some odd reason. I think it's because I didn't feel as guilty. I was more of a tearer and didn't give a damn. So I didn't get left for shooting. But as I got to know more about what I shouldn't be doing, I used to get more left for shooting, feel vibrations less. But in the early days, I really felt vibrations very, very strongly. I could feel it literally like a cool wind coming off that chair. So anyway, we sat there. I think it's the afternoon, 2 o'clock. Shri Mataji comes in and sits down, and Frances, my wife, who sat next to her, and she said to Frances, can you feel the cool vibrations? She said, no, mother, not a thing. So she couldn't feel a thing, but I could feel this cool wind. So the next thing that happened was quite weird to me, because when you see psychics do this, they always say, is there anybody that knows a John? Is there anybody that, you know, and you know it's a bit shady and shaky and a bit fluffy around the edges. But Shri Mataji went round the room telling people their problems and why they had something. And there was a girl sat on this wall to her left, and she said to the girl, you've got to forgive your father. And she looked at Shri Mataji and she started to cry. And Shri Mataji said, you must forgive your father. I'm not asking you to kind of forget him and disrespect him. I'm just saying forgive him. And she went all around the room telling people what they should do. And then another thing that was really odd was there was a guy sat in that corner, and Shri Mataji said, and tell me about yourself. And he said, I have this guru. And Shri Mataji says, yes, I know him. And I realised that it wasn't that she knew people, but she knew them on a subtle level. And she said, yes, he is a real, I saw your guru. Oh. And she said to him, and what do you do? And he said, I have to say the mantra, who am I? Who am I? And he repeated that mantra. And Shri Mataji got some kum-kum and drew a swastika in his palms. It's very individual. And I was like, I always was a fiddly guy then, you know, I couldn't keep still. I was fiddling with my watch. And Shri Mataji said, come here, give me your watch. And I gave her my watch, and she was bandaging it. She said, oh, these boots, they're like flies, they get everywhere. She bandaged it, gave me it back. I thought, oh. And I don't know what's happened to that watch now, but I wish I'd have kept it. And then what, one more story is there?
You said about the heart, an abstract, abstract story about the heart.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just curious, did you notice anything about the watch afterwards? I mean, I thought you were going to say, and the watch stopped.
No, because it was just comfortable. I wasn't fiddling with it. It didn't feel right on the wrist, and I kept fiddling with it. I didn't know why, but I was fiddling with it and scratching.
And that went away?
Yeah, and that went away, yeah. Just put it back on that, and it was fine. And so the next story is years and years in the future. So we're talking about maybe 5 years ago now. So what are we, so 1990?
5 years ago, 2008?
Yeah, 2008, something like that, yeah, 2008-ish. So I was in India and I was at the Washi hospital thing, and we'd had the morning meditation, whatever time that was, 7, 8 o'clock, and I could not get peaceful. I couldn't meditate, and I just didn't feel settled at all. And anybody who was in Sahaja Yoga in the early days would know that often you would be sat, 5, 6, 7. I've done 12 hours before Mother came to the puja, where they said, come here, where we were there at 10 o'clock in the morning. I remember one occasion when we were at, it's got something to do with tulips near Cambridge, I've forgotten its name now.
Shudi Camps?
No, it was near Shudi Camps. Mother lived at Shudi Camps at the time, but it wasn't that. It was a name to do with flowers. Anyway, we were there, and it was a Krishna puja. Mother had sent a message to be in the hall for 12 o'clock meditating, 12 o'clock daytime. And she didn't come till 12 o'clock in the night time.
Was that the one in Ipswich, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't the Ipswich one, but it used to happen a lot. Yeah. Okay. It used to happen a lot where you would just sit and wait for Mother to come, and it kind of gave you that discipline that you would just sit and wait, you know, even though you were itchy, irritable, thirsty, hungry, whatever it could be, but you wouldn't get into some kind of discipline of waiting. So I thought, oh my God, I used to do this in the old days, I'll do it today. So we had the morning meditation at Washay. I couldn't get settled, I couldn't get into meditation. I thought, right, well, I'm going to sit here like I did in the old days. I've got nowhere to go, nothing to do. I'll sit here, and if it takes 6 hours, it'll take 6 hours. So I sat in meditation, and I didn't go thoughtless. This really weird thing happened. And what happened was, I felt there was 2 kids I was teaching at a school for naughty kids, backward and naughty kids, special needs kids. And you know, to be perfectly frank, these 2 kids, I used to absolutely hate them. They were very disruptive, and for 2pence I could have killed them. And a really weird thing happened. I felt my heart become like a woman. It was actually, I could hear an audible sound in my head of this blood going. So my heart became like a wound, and these 2 kids came into my heart. I thought, this is very strange. So I stayed with it, and somehow I got this kind of love thing going on with these kids in my heart, this love. And I had heard Mother say, put them in your heart, and I had done it intellectually. So when I was in school and I was in assemblies and I was on supply, so I'd be on massive assemblies, you know, 600 kids in an assembly, and I'd try to put the kids in my heart and raise their kundalinis, but I didn't have a clue that this was the reality of the situation, that this was what she'd meant, or this now was happening to me. So that was that, and when I stopped the meditation, which wasn't a meditation, but when it stopped happening, I went round telling everybody. That was the first thing I did. So I was quite excited. I was telling everybody, you know, this had happened. Oh, what a feeling, you know, it was amazing and all that business. Anyway, so that's that. Now, when I got home, and it was at Christmas, and I started work again after the Christmas in the January. This is no word of a lie. These kids who I was at loggerheads with, and I hated them with a vengeance. One of them ran across the hall, and he jumped up into my arms. I thought, my God, what has happened here? And the other kid did exactly the same thing, and I thought, somewhere on a psychic level, they have been in my heart, and the love has affected them, and they calmed them down, made them nicer, and actually made them like me. Or what, not made them like you, but whatever that transpires to be. And I just couldn't believe it, that it took a month for the evidence of that to happen. It was just amazing. And that's it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Johnny. Thanks very much.